Okay, can everybody see the PowerPoint that I have up here on the screen?
Yeah.
Excellent. So if you aren't muted, please mute yourself, except for those of us who are supervisors. Welcome to the fall 2022 online internship orientation. I'm very excited for the internships to get started this semester, and we've got a very large group. We have 80 students. So it's our largest internship group yet. So I'm going to quickly, most of you know me. I'm Professor Presley. I'm the undergraduate program coordinator. I'm the undergraduate internship director. And also, most of you have had me. If you had me, I was an undergraduate teacher in 281, 490, 402, 401, multiple other classes. I'm going to have the others introduce themselves as well. James, I'll throw it to you just because I'm looking at you next.
Okay, my name is James Breeding, and I am going to be working with all of the graduate students. So a lot of you all have either had in class or have in class for sport law this semester. So I think most of you know me, but if not, that's me. And if you have any questions or issues, I will be the one you reach out to. So if you're in 692, don't bother Presley Thompson or Spencer, you call me.
Erica.
Hey everyone, happy Friday. Erica Thompson. I am a second-year doc student here in the SPAD program, and I will be working primarily with undergraduates this semester. So I will have about 18 to 20 of you all, and then I will shoot you all a note later on today just to introduce myself again so you know that I am your supervisor.
Spencer.
Hey y'all, my name is Spencer Cavan, first year SPAD doc student. I have about 8 undergrads that I'll be working with, and that's it.
Where are you from, Spencer?
I'm from Toronto, Canada.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. I'm going to really quickly just share the spreadsheet so that the undergrads can see the document of the breakdown. Oops, sorry, clicked the wrong button. So, just going to make this a little bit smaller. So if you are a graduate student, you are being supervised by Professor Breeding. If you are an undergraduate student, you are being supervised by either Thompson, myself, Presley, or Cavan, who is Spencer Cavan. So please take a quick look at this list and find your name. It's alphabetical by last name in this middle column. So find your name and then see who your supervisor is going to be this semester. So we have 3 undergraduate supervisors. You will report directly to that supervisor that is by your name. So I'm going to use Carson as an example. He is being supervised by Spencer Cavan. So you'll get communications either from the 402 class or from Spencer specifically. If you have any questions, issues, concerns as it relates to your internship experience, you need to go directly to your faculty supervisor. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're going to go back to the PowerPoint. Sorry, I haven't been on Zoom for a bit and I forget how to do all this all of a sudden. Can you see me?
We can see the PowerPoint.
Yay. We're going to skip introductions because there's so many of us this semester, but we have quite a few students working here at the University of Louisville in a multitude of areas, anywhere from facilities to working in academics, some people working in marketing. James, where are some of your graduate students working?
A lot of different places. Some are doing remote in organizations across the country, but then we have grad students in U of L athletics, Louisville Bats. I think we have someone at Spalding. A lot of the same ones as undergrads, but yeah, pretty good diversity of the group.
We've got a lot of diversity. Normally, we spend some time, if we're face-to-face, going through introductions, who you are and where you're working and what you kind of anticipate what you want to do this, what you want to gain this semester. Because we have such a large group, we're just going to skip this part. You're probably all grateful for that. It'll also probably make this go a little bit faster. So today we're going to be talking about both the SPAD 402 section and the 692. Now, we in the past have separated these orientations, but it really does make sense for us to do it together because almost everything is the same except for a couple of assignments. So if you see 402 on the top, that's specific to the undergrad, and if you see 692, that's specific to the graduate. So make sure you're paying attention during the time in which we're discussing your specific assignments. We're also going to talk a little bit about professionalism and what our expectations are of you as you're out there representing the sport administration program and the University of Louisville. So these specific requirements are the undergraduate requirements. So please note that you're already meeting the first requirement, which is attending the orientation today on August 26th. Check for that. You get 10 points for being present. In addition to that, you'll also have an orientation quiz, which is due next week. This quiz is going to go over some of the things we discuss here in this orientation, and then also things that are in the syllabus and the handbook. So between now and next Friday, you'll need to log on to Blackboard and complete the orientation quiz. I'm not going to go through every single one of these assignments because we're going to talk about them in more detail here in a few minutes, but I do just want you to make note and or keep this PowerPoint handy so that you can see the due dates of the multiple assignments. It's also important to note that it's not just you're required to do hours, you also have to do the assignment.
The orientation is just this, like you're watching.
Who is that? Mute yourself. Well, somebody, whoever that was, needs to mute yourself. Thank you. I do want you to know here on the bottom where it says important, you must complete all assignments in order to pass this class. This is a graded class, meaning that you can potentially get an A, B, C, D, or F. We do have an expectation that not only do you do the timesheets, keep track of your hours, and your activity summaries, but that you also complete all of the rest of these assignments. You cannot pass this class if you do not do the assignments. James, I'm going to turn it over to you really quick for the 692.
Very similar on the requirements. Your due dates are a little bit different, structured a little differently because you all have a major project. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because we'll cover a major project at the end. We'll let all the undergraduate students jump off, grad students stay on for about 5 more minutes, and I'll talk a little bit about the major project. All of these due dates are in the syllabus, and they're in this Blackboard or PowerPoint presentation that will be under course documents. I recommend you put them in your calendar too with some reminders, because if you have multiple classes, sometimes the internship due dates slip by because you're working all your hours and doing crazy things. So just get these down somewhere where you'll be reminded of what's due when.
Excellent. Okay. The only thing I was going to say is that all of our assignments are due at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll discuss some specifics about which things are due on which days, but just note that they're all due at midnight. We made that consistent across all assignments. Oops. This is just a slide on the orientation quiz, so I just don't want you to all forget. So it might make sense if you do it today and or tomorrow because it's going to be fresh in your mind. So between now and next Friday, you're going to take the quiz. It's worth 10 total points. It's going to cover things that we discussed in this orientation, things that are in the syllabus and or things that are in the handbook, which can be found under course contents in Blackboard. And we will do a little bit of Blackboard tutorial, but it'll be pretty brief. Okay, we're going to talk about timesheets for a second. So you're all doing either, if you're an undergraduate, you're doing 150 3 credits or 300 6 credits hours, or if you're a graduate student, you're doing 300 hours for 3 credits. So everybody's expected to do either 150 or 300 hours. you will have to keep track of these hours via timesheets. I'm going to just tab forward for a second just to show you what it looks like. If you look here on the left-hand side, you'll see an example of our timesheet. You see that it's in a 2-week format from Monday to Sunday. So you're going to keep track of your hours in 2-week increments. At the top, you'll see that it's your name. It's also where you're doing your internship. And then, of course, your faculty supervisor. So if you're a grad student, you should already know that Professor Breeding is your supervisor. The rest of you will either have myself, Presley, Thompson, or Cavan. So that's whose name you would put there where it says faculty supervisor. Can you guys see my mouse?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. And then so if you started, what day is today? Friday. So let's say you started this Monday, you would do all of this week and then all of next week, and then your timesheet will be due the following Tuesday. So these timesheets are always due on Tuesdays after you've completed 2 weeks. Now I get this question a lot. What if I worked a week and then I went on vacation? Then tell me that, right? So you worked a week, you total your hours for that week, and then you just cross this out and write vacation so that I know that you were on vacation and you're consistently turning your timesheet in every 2 weeks. So as supervisors, we have an expectation that you turn your timesheet in every other Tuesday. So every 2 weeks. If you don't turn it in every other Tuesday, we're going to start looking for you. Those of you who haven't started your internship yet, if you're starting maybe in a week or you're starting next month, you need to communicate that with your supervisor because we need to know what's going on with you and your hours. Okay, in addition to completing the timesheet, you'll notice at the bottom down here, you must have your signature on it and the site supervisor's signature. So this is whoever is supervising you at your internship site, your direct supervisor. We need that signature on file. If it does not have this signature here, it will not be counted towards your hours. So you have to have it. Sometimes I get emails saying, oh, my supervisor is gone this Tuesday. Can I please have one additional day for my supervisor to sign it? Fine. I will usually say yes, but what I would like you to note is that you should be prepared because you know these are due every other Tuesday. Get your supervisor's signature when they're present. A couple more things related to the timesheet. I like this one, which says points are going to be deducted if your timesheet is late. We do want you to turn them in every other Tuesday. So if you're turning them in kind of consistently on Thursday or Friday, you're going to get points deducted. Also, there's only a maximum of 40 hours allowed per week. And so on that timesheet, it would be a total of 80 hours per timesheet towards your overall total. So many of you maybe are working, and I'm going to use football as an example, football recruiting or video production football. They a lot of times will work students. You might not do 40 hours a week, but maybe over the course of 2 weeks, you might work more than 80 hours. If you do that, please put the total hours that you worked on your timesheet. So for example, if you worked 94 hours in a 2-week time frame, put that on your timesheet so that we know as supervisors that you worked that many hours. However, you're only going to get credit for 80. There's a couple of reasons for this. We want to make sure that you're not getting overworked. For one, we also want to make sure that this internship experience is going to be over the course of the full semester and not knocking out, 200 hours or 300 hours very quickly in a couple of weeks. If you send a timesheet that says I worked 120 hours in 2 weeks, it's probably pretty likely that one of us that are supervising you are going to say, oh my goodness, what is going on? That sounds like a lot of hours. So you can anticipate to hear from us if there's a lot of hours on your timesheets, because we don't want you to be overworked as students. In addition to that timesheet, so as you see here, we have both a timesheet and an activity summary / article review. So in the first part of this activity summary, what you're doing is you're telling us what you did during that 2-week time frame. So if you have 44 hours on your 2-week timesheet, the first part of this first section of your activity summary is what you did during that time. The second part is an article review So we want you to find a recent article and write how it relates to your internship experience and or the work that you're doing at your internship site. So there's some specific things here. The first timesheet, we really want you to turn in an article summary about your like kind of an overview of what your internship experience is going to be, what you think it's going to be. And then having your first article review be really relevant to what you're doing at that internship. Then as we go throughout the semester, you have a little bit more flexibility where they can be just sort of generally related to the organization or the segment and or an event or something that's happening that's similar to what you're doing at your internship site. Also, APA 7. So you can't see it in this one, but there's an APA citation that you have to put at the end of your activity summary and article review. So if you don't have your APA citation, you're going to lose points. Is there anything else on here that I'm missing? Oh, reputable sources. I think the next slide has those. This one. Examples of resources that you can use for your article review. D1 Ticker, Front Office Sports, maybe Sportico. What other resources did we discuss this morning? Spencer or James?
The NERSA for those in Campus Rec.
Mm-hmm.
And then we talked about this podcast as well, SBJ Morning Buzzcast. If you're just out for a walk or you're headed to or from your site, that might be something that you want to just listen to in the car or anything like that, so that you can go online after, search the article quick, and you're more efficient with your time.
Yeah, and for the grad students that are already in sport law, we're doing current events and cases almost every single week. A lot of times on Law 360, you'll see something, and if it's related to the sport or the industry in which you're interning, you can obviously use both, one for law class and one for this class as your current event article resource. I guess should just mention the bad ones are basically anything that's not fact checked or that's opinion. So if you're talking about somebody's own Twitter, somebody's own blog, Reddit, any type of opinion based, not fact based source, we would not want to see.
Yes, and also here you'll see the link to Purdue OWL, and we'll also make sure that it's handy in the article review section on Blackboard so that you can kind of cross-check and cross-reference that you're following APA 7. APA recently changed from 6 to 7 in 2019. So if you learned APA like a couple of years ago, you need to just make sure that you're following the up-to-date APA 7 requirements in the submission of your article summary. I just want to reiterate, these are submitted at the same time. So you turn your timesheet and your activity summary and article review in every other Tuesday before 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
I would add one thing to that, Professor Presley, on the article summaries. Please spell check them and grammar check them, at least as a courtesy. They are an academic submission. Timesheets and article summaries are a 60-point grade. It's for grads. Your all's point value is the same for the article and timesheet reviews as it is for your HAT project. So these are pretty important, and especially for grad students, there shouldn't be misspelled words, lack of punctuation, and things like that. Just, proofread them once before you submit them. Sometimes I think these kind of get thrown together at the last minute and submitted with the timesheet, and the work product's not very good, and you're going to have points deducted.
Thank you, Professor Breeding. I was just going to quickly show, since we're here, can you see my Blackboard shell?
Yes.
Okay, so this is course content. This is where you can find both your handbook. This is the undergrad shell, but you can see both your handbook and the syllabus. Of course, you find here on the left-hand side, you can find the syllabus. So when you're taking your orientation quiz, it might make sense to have the PowerPoint accessible, to have the syllabus accessible, and or the handbook. Any questions, probably, I'm going to say any, but probably the majority of any question that you have as it relates to this internship experience, the answer can be found in the internship handbook. So look at the handbook first before you shoot an email to any of us asking us questions that you can probably easily find the answer to yourself in the handbook. You'll note here that, so the timesheets and the activity summaries are to be submitted together, but they are two separate submissions. And so if you click on the, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so you can see that there's the timesheets, you submit them here, but then also at the same time, you will also click on the article summary and submit your article summary here. Does anybody, I just want to make sure that that's very clear for everyone, that it's, even though they're two separate submissions, they must be submitted together on Tuesdays. And we'll take questions at the end of the presentation, because a lot of you probably might have very similar questions. Okay, let me go back to my PowerPoint. The only other thing that we ask is that when you're uploading it, that you upload maybe your timesheet number and your activity review number. That way we know that they go together. So I know that the timesheet 1 goes with the activity summary 1. And if you're really feeling like helping us out, you can put the name, but like you don't, all the grad students don't have to write Breeding because he's going to be grading all of them. However, it might be useful if you do that. Not required. The date is also helpful. When we're grading them, it shows up kind of as a list as we go through the semester. So it's easy for us to quickly see, yes, you turned them in every Tuesday, right? You turned one in on September 6th and 20th. So I can see that very, very quickly and very easily, and it's helpful. If there's no signature, no credit. If you turn in a timesheet with no activity summary, no credit. Do I need to keep going through these? If this, then that. Okay, you got the gist. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Erica, although I might interrupt you, but I will turn it over to you to talk about the specific undergraduate assignments.
Perfect. So this semester for the undergrad students, we will be setting up and creating your HAT assignment into 3 different portions. So the first piece of your HAT assignment will be the organizational analysis and industry overview. So this assignment will give you all the opportunity to let us know who you were working with, but also it's a chance for you to really understand the inner workings and the history of the organization. So in the handbook and on Blackboard within the assignment, there are going to be 5 different pieces. So down at the bottom where it says the following elements, so you'll do the history and operations, the leadership structure. So in the past, a lot of students have done just an org chart, so something simple on a Word document, and then they submit it with their org analysis and overview, any issues, problems, or opportunities. So while there may be some issues or problems, if there's anything you're really excited about to work with or work on, please let us know in this assignment. Any key metrics, so how are you going to keep track of what you're doing? If you're using Excel or anything data driven, mention that so we know what systems you are utilizing. And then also, how are you going to communicate with your supervisor, your peers, and your colleagues? So again, on Blackboard and in the undergraduate handbook, there are guiding questions. So make sure when you are completing this initial assignment to go through those questions, or else you will get points deducted, but they're very straightforward. One question, for example, is just what problems, challenges have you identified in the industry? And another one is describe your supervisor's areas of responsibility. So things for you to really get to know your organization. And that way we also know who you are working for.
I'm just going to add that it's an organizational analysis. So an analysis of the specific organization that you're working for, but it's also an industry overview. So let's say that there's specific innovations or specific opportunities that you recognize. Maybe your organization does it, but the industry doesn't, or vice versa. That's what we're kind of looking for, is not only do you recognize where you're working, but you also recognize what's happening within the industry in that area, in that segment. Good. Erica.
So the second piece of your HAT assignment will be to work with your supervisor to identify 3 SMART goals. And so on Blackboard, right here, what you can see on the presentation is what SMART stands for. So specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. We asked the students in person this morning if they had heard of SMART goals or if they've made them before, and most of them said yes. So I'm hoping the same for you all who are joining us right now. But Presley, if you want to go ahead to the next slide. So here's an example that will be included on Blackboard. So you can see for the action, it's just the student wanted to implement and oversee a camp towards the end of the semester. So anyone who is working in marketing, say you want to come up with a new promotion night for an upcoming men's soccer game. So you can say on October 1st, this game against whoever, I want to implement this type of promotion. And that way you can break it down. And again, you'll be going through these with your supervisor. When you are brainstorming these, they should be goals that are going to work towards your professional development, but also something to develop the organization. And then on Blackboard, there's a template. So for all 3 SMART goals, please, Presley's happy about that. Please utilize the template that is there. That way it will help you all organize the SMART goals. And then when you do your reflection, which is going to be the next slide, it will help you really reflect if you achieve the SMART goals or if it's something that you may need to revisit.
I'm just going to add, you will use the template for all 3 SMART goals. So part of the assignment this semester is that you must put your 3 goals that you have come up with for your professional growth in this SMART template. And then also write up, so you see this is called the SMART Goal Execution Plan. So not only are you identifying the goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely, you're also going to talk about how you sort of plan to achieve those goals throughout the course of the semester. Last semester, when we used the students who used the template did really well on this assignment. Those students who did not use the template did not do well on this assignment. So I would like you to all use the template because it's going to help improve your overall grade on this assignment. If you don't use it, you're going to lose points. Well, unless you do it accurately without the template, but I prefer that you use it.
Jen, let me jump in real quick. That assignment, and I'm putting it in the chat, is required for both undergrad and grad. So even though Erica was talking to 402 in the previous slide, this SMART goal assignment is required for graduate students as well. And the other thing I'll add is understand that you may not achieve all 3 of your SMART goals, and that's not necessarily a terrible thing. Don't lie when you do the evaluation or think that you're going to get penalized. The SMART goal is to help you work towards development. And like we had somebody last semester, one of their SMART goals was putting on a summer camp, and then the summer camp was canceled due to inclement weather that week. So obviously they didn't complete the goal, but the learning and planning process was part of this, and they just stated that in their reflection.
Mm-hmm. And that's this section here where not only so at the beginning of the semester, you're going to identify your 3 goals, and you're going to talk about how you plan to achieve them. At the end of the semester, the second part of that assignment is that you're going to evaluate what happened, how well was I able to achieve this goal, what were some of the maybe significant hurdles that I came across when I was trying to achieve this goal, and then talk to how this might help you moving forward in your future career, whether it was this internship site or in future opportunities that you see in your career. We also are asking you to reflect on, did you utilize some critical thinking skills? Do you think there was any previous course knowledge that was really helpful for you in the evaluation and reflection in the execution of these goals, and how you communicated those goals, not only to us, but also to your supervisor and or your colleagues or coworkers at your organization. Did I miss anything on that? And all of these assignments are specifically laid out in Blackboard. So if you want more details, they're there. And as we move through the semester, we will provide you more information on them. You want me to talk about this?
Sure,
James,
go ahead.
go to James.
Okay, so this will be one of the end of semester assignments you'll do. So there's 2 assessments. One is an assessment by your site supervisor, where we will email your site supervisor and ask them to evaluate your performance. And then you do an assessment of your site and your site supervisor. And the purpose of this assignment is for you to give us feedback on the internship experience. So we have a lot of internship partners we evaluate every year. Some of them are great partners, and sometimes we look and maybe it's not achieving the objectives that we want for our internship program. So we're looking for your honest feedback on Did you enjoy the experience? Was it learning? What type of positive takeaways did you have? What areas there may be for improvement for the site supervisor, the work experience? And then you will turn this into us. I think they're December 2nd this year for student final assessments of sites. And then if you'll flip to the next slide, you'll kind of share these briefly in an exit meeting. These meetings for grads, they're going to be on the 5th and 6th. I think Professor Presley, Spencer and Erica will send out Zoom invites. All of these for grad students will be done on Zoom. And I basically send 6 questions that kind of tie back into your site assessment, where you're just going to share with the other interns that are in your group. Here's where I interned. Here's some key takeaways I had. Here was my experience. And, yes, I would recommend, if you're interested in this area of sport, completing an internship. Exit meetings are required. So I know we get to the end, it's December, people have gone home, I've got a conflict. Unless you want an incomplete, you have to attend the exit meeting. Last semester, I had 2 groups of 7. Both of them lasted like 30, 35 minutes. This is not a 2-hour commitment, but you are required to sign up for one of the 2 that I'll offer to grad students, and whichever one is offered by the undergraduate coordinator with whom you're working.
Something that you mentioned came up in the meeting this morning is even though I completed my hours in 10 weeks, do I have to do all the rest of these assignments? Yes, you have to do all the assignments. No, you can't quit your job just because you're done with your hours. You need to stay at your internship site through the semester, which is what you committed to in the registration process. But you do not have to continue once you've met your either 150 or your 300. You do not have to continue submitting timesheets because you've already met your hour requirement. So that's a common question we see. Really briefly, we're going to talk about professionalism in the workplace. Spencer, are you doing this one? Okay.
Yeah, so I'm really excited for you because this is a first step towards whatever you're going to do after school and into your professional careers. I know you're all adults in this room and you've heard this before, but just a couple of reminders on some communication, whether it's virtual as we're doing right now or face-to-face, making sure that you're talking with your supervisor if they have a preferred method of communicating, whether that's email, text, or phone, and then the methods and the behavior that you're communicating with those supervisors, with your site supervisors, and also with your faculty supervisors. Just keep in mind there's something about Zoom fatigue here. Just even making sure, like, what's your background on Zoom if you're meeting with the supervisor for the first time. You can never get back a first impression, and that's something, these habits now are going to carry into your professional career in the next couple of years. So dressing appropriately for sites, if you're setting up and tearing down, you're obviously going to have a different attire than if you're going into a professional business meeting or preparing a proposal. And these are just really important things to keep in mind that we know you know about, but we just want to make sure we're reminding you so that you kind of take that seriously. Professor Breeding might touch upon a little bit later, but hopefully, you can garner a job from this internship in the future. And I think that's happened a lot in the past. So keep in mind about the relationships that you're building there from your own professional network, but also the employment opportunities that could come from this specific internship. Last couple things: be positive, be alert, be energetic. If somebody asks you to do something, think about the value that you can add to this, thing that they're asking you to do. And if it makes sense for you to do it, will you gain experience? Maybe it's not going to be the best thing right now in terms of a time aspect for you. You want to do other things, but it could benefit you along in the long run. So excited for you. And if you have any questions, reach out to your faculty supervisors.
Okay, I'm going to cover general issues and concerns and what happens if problems arise and bad things happen. So first one, obviously the last couple of years, COVID-19 has been an issue with interrupting internships. So if you get sick or if your workplace goes remote due to COVID-19, just let us know so we know that your job is changing a little bit. Or if you're sick and you obviously can't work and you're in quarantine, we're not getting blank time sheets and wondering what happened. So I won't go through all the COVID-19 protocols, but if it happens and it changes your workplace scenario, just let us know. The second bullet point, you get fired. Let's just be perfectly clear. You are not to get fired. Do not get fired. The F in fired equals F in internship. So you need to avoid that. If someone else gets fired in your organization, mainly your direct supervisor, please let us know as soon as possible. As we mentioned, site supervisors get evaluations, so we need to make sure that we know who is working with you and how to appropriately get them the intern evaluation form at the end of the semester. On a positive story, I will tell you over the summer, we had a grad intern interning at the University of Oregon. He was, I think, less than 2 weeks into his internship. His supervisor was fired while they did a job search. Obviously, it's a state university, so they had to post the job and have and meet some guidelines. So they didn't hire right away. They said, "Hey, you're doing his job. Here's what he was doing." He did the job so well, he got the full-time job, and he's staying out there now as a full-time employee. So it's look at it as an opportunity, not necessarily an obstacle. If you're injured, we need to know right away. There's some implications there with workman's comp and how that is covered that we would need to be aware about. And I just thought of something, Jen, we need to look and see if we have anybody in Colorado or Rhode Island.
Yeah, I don't think we do, but yes.
Or if you're dissatisfied with your experience, this is a little bit of a different category. So if you show up and you work 2 days and you took a job in sales and you realize, oh my gosh, I hate cold calling, I'm dreading picking up the phone, you have to tough it out. You're going to have things happen in your internship experience that you don't enjoy. Bad experience can be professionally beneficial because it helps you learn this is not an area in which I want to work. We have a lot of people that intern in event and stadium operations that in their reflection say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that they wanted me to work 90 hours a week during home stands or home football weeks. And I don't have any weekends off. And there is no 9 to 5 hours, and I didn't have time to do anything else in life. That's okay. You learned that segment of the business is not good for you. You may learn that sales is not good for you, or that, you know, a creative position, while you thought it was something really cool, isn't something you really enjoy. So take experiences that may not be what you initially thought they were going to be, and do the best you can. Be positive still in your workplace, and learn from those. And then in the end, you know, ask yourself the questions: what did you enjoy doing? What are you good at? What can you learn? Because the whole purpose of the internship is for you to gain professional experience, but also gain some knowledge of the path you want to pursue next as you move into the workforce.
Excellent. So really quickly, I just want to answer any questions that anybody might have. I'm just going to stop sharing for a second. Does anyone have, either you put it in the chat or you have a specific question? What we're going to do is ask the undergraduates to leave. All undergraduates will receive an email from their direct supervisor. So that will either be me, Thompson, or Kavan. But I do want to answer any general questions if anyone has any. Don't be shy.
There's nothing in the chat I've been monitoring.
Taryn's got a question, I think.
And
Yes.
Talitha.
Is the orientation quiz, is that timed at all?
Yes.
Yes.
Just do
Yeah,
it quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's easy.
Is it 60? Is it, what do we have on there? 6?
I can't remember, but let me, to answer that, somebody just entered the waiting
I saw
room.
it.
To help you a little bit with that question, the internship quiz is open note, open PowerPoint, open handbook, open syllabus, open anything you want other than someone else doing it for you. So I would highly recommend having the PowerPoint open to where you can go back and forth, because if I remember correctly, all 10 of the questions are either answered in the PowerPoint or they were answered verbally in this presentation.
And it's not a very hard test. It's easy.
Okay.
Nye. Mute yourself. Do you have a question? Thank you.
No, ma'am, sorry.
No, you're good.
There was one other question someone
So I
had.
think Talitha.
Yes, it was me. I had a question. And so, like, I started my internship at like the beginning of August. We also like take those hours, or just only the hours starting this week?
2 weeks prior to the start of the semester. So our semester started on the 22nd. So 2 weeks prior to the start of the semester is our policy. That's the 8th.
Okay.
If you started on the 1st, what I would do is just sort of put that in your time, put that time in your timesheet so we know if at the end we're in a position where that week is really going to make or break your hours, then we will take those into consideration. But the policy is 2 weeks prior to the start of the semester. So
Okay.
started before the 8th, that's great, but the 8th is when the hours are officially allowed to be starting to count.
And I'm gonna address that for grad students real quick. So if you're a grad student and you are counting hours from the 8th to the 22nd, you need to turn that timesheet in next Tuesday on the 30th. And it cannot exceed 80 hours. So if you worked 40 hours from the 8th to the 15th, and then you worked 40 more from the 15th to the 22nd, turn that timesheet in on the 30th. And I can count forward towards this semester a max of 80 hours.
It's the same for the undergrads. I just don't, we just don't expect them to turn it in on the 30th, but yeah. Connor, do you have a question?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
For the article summary, I noticed it was about 3 paragraphs describing what you did, and then the last paragraph was the article summary of what you found. Is that the ratio you guys are want, or what kind of length do we want for these article summary current event stuff?
Are
Do
you a
we
grad
answer that?
student, Connor?
He's a grad student.
Yeah, go ahead and answer it. I mean, it's the same answer for both grads and undergrads, but
So I think that was an example, Connor, but what we're really looking for is the first, let's say, half of the submission should be, here's what I've been working on the last 2 weeks. The first one you do should be kind of an overview of what you've been doing. And then in future ones, if you want the activity summary of what you're doing in your internship to be more specific, if you want to talk about an event, one event that you did or one project you're working on, that's fine. And then the second half paragraph or two roughly will be your article summary. And the article summary should be, here's what the article is about in one paragraph, and here's how it relates, or here's why it interests me and what I want to do in my career in the second paragraph. So we really don't want them to be more than a page, single space, 12 font. And as long as it's good information and you're not writing just to fill up the page, I'm not real picky about how many paragraphs each contains.
I got a specific direct question about like online press releases, anything that is not opinion based. So we're not being as strict as we used to be. We used to say it had to be sort of a journal article or sport business journal. But if you find something that is, as Spencer mentioned, it's a podcast or it's some type of an official release that you're working on, and or your organization has released a statement or some kind of publicity, that's okay, as long as you're not utilizing wikis, Reddit, and or blogs or opinion type posts, because as we know, those are not verified as official sources. Good questions. Does anyone else have any questions before our undergraduates are free to go? 45 minutes.
I have a question.
Hi, Anna. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
So I started my internship in August, so I've been tracking hours since August 8th. So when I turn that in August 30th, do I need to have activity summary and current event, or just my timesheet?
No, just like all the others, you'll turn in the 8th to the 5th, 8th to the 22nd, up to 80 hours, and you will just tell me, started my internship, here's what I'm doing with that particular organization, and then some type of relevant current event / informational article.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
And Professor Presley, did you mention you did, and I'll just kind of clarify, when you think you're done with your hours, confirm with your supervisor before you stop submitting. So if you're keeping track and you think you get to 3:02, so you don't have to submit your next timesheet, just if I haven't already contacted you or someone else who's supervising you hasn't, just shoot your professor a note and say, hey, by my records, I'm at 151 and I'm doing 3 credit hours. Am I good to not submit the next timesheet? And confirm that before you just bail and you counted wrong.
There is also the running hours, logged hour, or it's like, I think that at the top in
It says
the
total hours worked.
approved.
Total hours approved. Yep.
Yeah. So your approved hours is us having, we've looked at them, We've read your timesheets, we've read your activity summaries and your article review, and we have given you the credit for it, then we will put it in the total hours approved. Also, something that comes up often is, why did I get a 0 on my timesheet and my activity summary / article review? That's a placeholder for us to, at the end of the semester, then give you those 60 points. So we evaluate you on that 2-week basis. And at the end of the semester, we will make a determination if you get all 60, or if you had trouble turning them in on time, you had trouble doing them as assigned, whatever the reason might be, then that's where you would lose some of those points. But that's all in Blackboard. You should be able to see it, and you can tell whether or not we've reviewed it, because you'll see your totals change and your zeros added.
The one thing I'll mention for grads and undergrads, because I just know from experience that most of you are not going to jump off here and instantly go read the handbook. I will tell you this: before you submit an assignment, or before you actually start working on an assignment, if you will go to the handbook and read the detailed description of the assignment, you will do much better, because these are very specifically laid out in terms of guidelines, what questions to answer and how it should be formatted. I send back a lot of assignments with the note that says, please consult handbook, because it's just not what we asked for. So you're not going to go read it right now, but when you start working on your first assignment other than the quiz, which for everyone will be SMART Goals submission, go to the handbook and specifically read the SMART Goals guidelines.
Okay, I have one more question online. Is the first timesheet due on September 6th? The answer to that question is yes, if you started your internship on the 22nd. So if you started it on the 22nd, you work the 22nd through the 28th, you work the 29th through the, not looking at the calendar exactly, the 5th, 4th, it's due by the 6th. We already discussed those of you who started earlier, so it's due the 30th if you've already started. If you don't start for 2 weeks, you need to let us know, because we're going to be looking for a timesheet either on the 30th or on the 6th.
So you all may have some different dates of submission. If you turn one in on the 30th, your next submission date's not going to be till the 13th. If you turn one in on the 6th, your next submission date will be the 20th. Whenever your first timesheet is submitted, you will then turn in every 2 weeks after. So some of you all may have a little different dates depending on whether you started before the semester or not.
Yep. Good. Anyone else have any specific questions? I'm just going to ask Breeding, Thompson, and Cavan to double check their chat, because I got a couple of direct message chats that weren't specific to the group. So just double check that there's nothing in those chats before we let all the undergrads go.
I am good. And just remember, if you were in 692, do not get off.
Do not go.
Zoom.
Stay. If you're 402, you will hear from one of the 3 of us within the next 24 hours. It might not be today, but you will hear from us, just confirming that you are working with us as that we are your direct supervisor. So for me, you'll get a note that says, hi, Presley interns, lucky you. Guess who you get to work with all semester? It's me. And then identifying some of the things that you need to remember from this orientation and that you need to take the quiz, etc. So thank you so much, undergrads. You may go, and I appreciate you being here and taking the time to do this orientation. And I want you to go out there and do great work in your internship.
Go team.
Go team. Grads, stick around. James, I'm going to stay. I'm just so it doesn't go anywhere. And then I'll be here, so you can just tell me to do whatever you need me to do for the PowerPoint.
Yep. If you'll go to those next slides, let's let everybody get off here. Can I see how many I got left on? 19. That's probably more than I should have, but that's okay.
Well, me
Okay.
and Erica, and I don't know if Spencer's still.
Oh, that's
here.
right. So first of all, Erica, did you get everyone who is on here, or do I need to write down grads?
Nope, I have it. And then for anyone who did not attend, I will shoot you an email.
Awesome. Thank you very much for doing that. Okay, so for undergrads, if you don't mind, Jen, can you go back to the 692 overview of assignments, just so I can kind of show them general timeline here?
Yeah, you're talking about for grads though, right? Because our
Yeah, I'm
undergrads.
sorry.
Okay.
692.
Hold on. Well, let me go backwards. Uh-oh. Hold on. Can you see that? No, you can't.
I can see nothing except you,
That is just how I like it. You can't see anything.
except your
You want
smiling
the,
face eating
you want the, I know I was eating.
the PowerPoint slide that shows them the assignment, so I can kind of just give them an idea of the timeline of the semester.
Which one?
You got it. So, guys, ladies, if you all look at this, these are all your assignments, very specific due dates, so you all can plan accordingly. The orientation quiz, obviously, next Friday, but then your SMART goals identification execution. I do want to reiterate that you should use the chart, put all 3 of your goals in the chart, and then there should be a brief summary of what you're planning to do at the end of that. And then the first assignment on September 30th that works towards your major project is the proposal and organizational analysis, which we'll get to. And then your major project portfolio itself is due November 18th, which is the Friday before Thanksgiving week. So you should have that done and not hanging over your head. Okay, no, Jen, go all the way
Okay.
down to the grad
I don't
part.
know why it's being weird. Go into the end. This one?
Perfect. So your major project has 2 parts. That first part, major project proposal, is the one that is due on September the 30th. Whoa, what just happened?
I don't know why. I keep
The organizational analysis is you talking about where you're working, a brief history of I'm working for Louisville City FC. It was started in Louisville in whatever league it started in whatever year it started in. The mission statement is, the goals of it are, the industry that we're in is professional minor league soccer. We're 1 level below the MLS. You're going to tell me about the organization, then a little bit about the structure in which you're working. What department are you working in? Who do you report to? Do you have a tall or flat structure? If you want to put it in an org chart, you can. The second part of that is the proposal summary. And this is where you should have met with your site supervisor, in this case at Louisville City FC, and come up with a project that you're going to do. When you're thinking about your project, I want you to think about 2 things. One is, if you were creating something that you would want to show someone in a job interview as part of a portfolio, you would be proud to say, look at the work that I've done. Here's an analysis that I did. Here's a brochure that I created. Here's a video that I created. Projects can be a lot of different things. They can be Adobe Cloud Express presentations. They can be a video. We had someone who interned for men's basketball, and he did the senior recognition video that showed at the Yum Center. So that's what he did. We had someone who built a logo and trademark guide sheet for Louisville City FC. We had someone who did a group sales flyer for the Louisville Bats. So your project doesn't necessarily have to be a research presentation. It can be an actual brochure, video, film, but it just has to be something that helps you develop professionally and also benefits your organization. So in the second part of the major project proposal due September 30th, you'll say, here's what I propose to do for my project. And then 99% of the time I say, that sounds good. Here's some things to consider. Make sure you include this. There's 1% of the time that you tell me you want to do an internship handbook. I've seen 1,000 internship handbooks and you're already doing an internship. So do not submit that you want to do an internship handbook. That is not an acceptable major project. And then the second part due on November 18th is the actual project portfolio. If you'll flip, Jen. So the expectations of the major project are here. I'm not going to read them all to you, but again, it has 2 parts. The executive summary describes to me in a written narrative, like a Word document, what the project was, what resources, tools, technology you utilized in doing it, how you benefited from doing the project professionally, and how your organization benefited. So here are a couple examples, but I'm going to show you some better ones. We had someone do a digital media template for Spalding. We had someone do Make It Mondays that was working in U of L nutrition, where they developed a plan to allow the student athletes in football to have input on what their nutrition was based on their dietary preferences rather than just a set menu. And then Jen, if you can get out and go to the shell of either 402 or 40 or 692, we'll show you some examples.
Core content, yeah? Oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah, very bottom.
Do you have a specific one? The first one I see is the NIL one.
No, first one I want you to do is the Cyclones executive summary.
Oh, okay, well, not this one then. So let me do the Cyclones executive summary.
So the executive summary is the written document that tells what your project's about and how you benefited and how the organization benefited from you doing it. And it's going to tell me what technology you use. So if you're, for example, if you're doing something with Louisville football video, I don't know what type of video programs they use. I don't know how you put those clips together. I don't know how that benefited you. So you would do that. But long story short, the executive summary is just a written document that tells me about your project. All right. So you want to go to any of those other ones, Jen?
You don't have,
So I'm going to show you 3 examples. You can do them in any order.
you don't care which one.
Nope. I'll talk about all 3 of them really quickly. So here's a really good one. They had an undergraduate student do that. She was working in athletics with men's basketball. And obviously right after the Alston decision, everyone was talking about, wow, what are other schools in the ACC doing? And so in her project, she went through and she evaluated every ACC team that had a published NIL policy. She compared it to how applicable state laws influenced each policy. She put together a slide for each one with keynotes of each policy. So she did a really nice job evaluating based on legal state laws and school policies, what it looked like. And I think she did this one in PowerPoint. You can go show a different one,
I was
Jen.
just seeing how many pages. It was
16. She had
Yeah.
16 slides.
nice.
So you just bring up another one. We'll show you 2 more just so you can get an idea.
This is nice of you to share this with the group.
I kind of want them to know what the expectation is. So when I grade these, I'm thinking, is this worthy of something that the student should put into a portfolio if they were applying for a job?
Not
That's
the
my
one.
main thing.
Sorry, this one. Do you see this?
Yeah, just hit slideshow and then start from the beginning. So this one is basically, this was someone that was interning at the Bats, and the Bats had this antiquated old school paper sheet of how players requested tickets for the player pass list. So she went through and did some research and explained what the player pass list was, how it had worked previously. And then she basically researched what other teams, major league and minor league teams, were doing and how players could request the tickets on their phone rather than having to sign up this pass list and not getting the pass list until after gates was open and then having this chaotic process of filling tickets. So what she did is she integrated the use of new technology and researching that technology and then applied it to a real situation to recommend an improvement for the internship she was doing with the Bats, and obviously did some analysis as well.
Nice.
We'll show you. Yeah, we'll show you one more.
I guess we will. I'm doing a great job manning the ship here.
You are the queen of technology. Actually, you're the sultan of internships.
You're funny.
Queen of technology.
Digital visualization.
Yep. So this one was someone who was working in analytics. So this one is really, really technical and went into some things where they were looking at the analytics and digital technology. They looked at social events and scroll down, basically did a project, analyzed the project, took research, did surveys, then related it back to the demographics, how they could improve events through technology. So as you can see, what I really liked about this was they integrated facts, research, analytics, analysis, and they put it in a visually appealing summary. Good graphs.
Nice graphs. Look at all these graphs.
Yeah, they did a great job.
Yeah.
So those are 3 examples of projects. But again, when you're doing the project, think, is this something that is worthy that I would show a future employer? If someone asks, do you have any experience with InDesign? You should be able to pull out and say, as a matter of fact, I do. I interned with Spalding's men's soccer and I designed a recruiting brochure for them to give to recruits, parents, and understand more about the Spalding program. Here's how I used InDesign to build that brochure. Or do you have any experience in analytics research? Absolutely. Let me show you a presentation I did that shows some analytics research I did and how I presented it in my internship. So that's what I want you to think about when you're doing the project. Is it something that you'd be proud to show a future employer? And that's really my spill, because it's the only difference in the internships really is the major project expectation for grads. So same deal, open for questions. And if not, we'll get you out of here.
James, I just wanted to mention, I'm not sure that this particular student is still on the call, but the site supervisor evaluations and the evaluation of your internship experience are confidential. So, I mean, they're supposed to go over their evaluation with you. But whatever you send to us about your experience and what you think about that experience, that's all confidential. So somebody remind me to just sort of send that message out, because I think it was an undergrad who asked that question.
Okay. Yeah, and we want honest, especially from
Yeah.
grad students, because a lot of you all have a little more experience. We want the honest feedback. You know, if they had you go into an internship site for 300 hours and all you did was clean cabinets and gym floors, then that's not a quality internship experience. So we would want to have a talk with them before we sent them any potential interns.
Right.
And I would hope that you would have called me and told me about that before you got to hour 299 and then tell me that it stunk. So, and if we don't have questions, we'll get you out of here. Do not forget to take the internship quiz. I'll send you a reminder, but obviously you might want to do it while it's fresh in your mind and the PowerPoint's around. Okay, I've got hold on, I got one in the chat. This is a really good question. If I don't start my internship to the end of September, do the other assignment deadlines get pushed back? Obviously, you probably can't do your SMART goals because you probably haven't met with your supervisor, or your the org analysis, which would be part of the HAT project submission. So if you are starting after some assignment due dates other than the orientation quiz, I will connect with you, send me an email, let me know. We'll probably do a call and then get a better idea of when you're starting and kind of tweak your dates. But remember, you are going to have all those things done by the end of the semester. So you're kind of just compacting your window of when you have to do things. But yes, I won't count them late and take off points if you don't start until October 1st. Good question. Nothing else in the chat, Jen. So unless somebody talks in the next 10 seconds, we're going to get you out of here. All right, everybody. Thank you for your attention. If you have questions, email me. My email's in the chat. Most of you have it anyway, and have a great weekend.
Bye.